Hi boys and girls. So now you should know what passive voice is and why we need to use passive voice. In this video, we are going to learn how to form passive verbs in different tenses. Yes, passive verbs look a bit different in each tense, but the basic rules are the same, so pay attention and see how much you can get. Before we look at passive verbs, let's look at some active verbs first. Look at these sentences. In active voice, we change the verbs in different tenses. For example, in past tense, we add ed at the end of the verb, or in future tense, we add the auxiliary word will before the verb. Do you remember how to change the verbs in other tenses? In passive voice, we also need to change the verbs according to the tense, but we do it differently. To start with, you should know the fundamental rule in forming a passive verb, that is, a verb to be plus a past participle, or sometimes we call it the PP. Look at these sentences. My apple was eaten. School is cancelled in the next 3 weeks. I have been stuck in the house for 3 days. You might wonder what is verb to be. Well, actually, verb to be could be words like is, am, are, was, were, being, or been, while past participle could be words with d or ed added at the end of a verb, or in the case of irregular verbs, they look completely different. Look at this irregular verb table. On this table, you will find the spelling of the past tense and the past participle of some of the irregular verbs. Look at the third column. Now these are the past participles of these irregular verbs, and let's take a look of some examples, take a look of bring. You see the past participle is brought, and then if you take a look of dream, the past participle actually is a special one because for dream, this verb, you can add ed or you can just simply add t at the end. Alright, so you can check the spelling of some of the irregular verb on the irregular verb table, and you can find one copy on the back of your grammar book. Make sure you know the past participles of some of the very common verbs. Okay, now we know the basic rule. How do we form the passive verbs? Let's start with the present tense first. Remember the basic rule? Verb to be plus past participle. In present tense, the verb to be would be either is, am, are, and then it would be the PP, past participles. Look at these sentences. My vase is broken. His mobile is stolen. The windows are opened. If you understand how present tense works, then you should have no problems with past tense. In past tense, the verb to be would be either was, were, plus past participles. Look at these sentences. The poor dog was hit last night. My wallet was stolen 3 weeks ago. All toilet paper was used. How about future tense? In future tense, we will use will be plus past participle. Look at these sentences. The exam will be finished in June. All the chocolates will be eaten. My money will be used up during the holiday. How about present continuous tense? We use is, am, are, being with past participle, the PP. The word being indicates that it is a continuous tense. Without it, it is only a passive verb in present tense. Look at these sentences. He is being punished during the lesson. My apple is being eaten. Those dogs are being beaten. How about present perfect tense? We use has or have been plus past participle, depending on the subject. Look at these sentences. The UT has been finished. All the masks have been sold out. So can you remember how to form the passive verbs now? So I'm sure you know how to change an active verb into a passive verb. So let's do some practice. One of the most common types of question in this grammar unit is changing an active voice sentence into a passive one. Let's take a look at this sentence. Teachers punish students if they break the rules. Now, whenever you encounter a question like this, I would always suggest you to locate the verb first. Okay, now there are two reasons why we have to locate the verb first. Okay, now in this case, the verb would be punish. All right, now from this verb, we know that this sentence is in present tense. Okay, this is very important because when we change it into a passive voice sentence, the tense should be consistent with the original sentence. So that's why we need to know what tense the sentence is written in. So in this case, it's present tense. We have to change the verb into a passive verb, which is are plus a pp. All right. Now the second reason why we need to locate the verb is because we need to locate where the action receiver is. Okay. In this case, students is the action receiver. All right. Why do we need to locate the action receiver? Because in the new sentence, the passive voice sentence, the action receiver would be the new subject. All right. So now we know who the action receiver is, and we know that the sentence is in present tense. We can form a new passive voice sentence. That is, students are punished if they break the rules. Okay, now students is the new subject of the sentence. Okay, and the verb we change from punish into are punished because we need to use are because the new subject students is in plural, and that's why we need to use are here. And then we have the pp punished with ed. All right, so this is how we change a active voice sentence. Teachers punish students if they break the rules into a passive voice sentence. Students are punished if they break the rules. All right. Now there is one more questions. All right. How about teachers? Do we need to put teachers in a new sentence? The answer is no. Okay, because in a passive voice sentence, remember there are three reasons. Okay, in this case, teachers are a very obvious action doer, so we don't really need to mention who punished the students. Okay, so when we do this type of exercise, very often you can just omit the action doer. Okay, in a new sentence. Okay, so do you want one more demonstration? Let's look at another sentence. Someone broke into my house last night. Again, the first step, what should you do? Yes, you locate the verb first. In this case, it is broke into. All right, now I would include into because this is a phrasal verb. Okay, so we have to include the preposition into in the verb as well. All right, so broke into, this is a past tense. So do you remember how to change a active voice into a passive verb in past tense? Yes, it is by using the verb to be, was or were, plus app. Okay, and after knowing the tense, we need to locate the action receiver. And in this example, my house is the action receiver. Okay, and then, do you know how to form a passive voice sentence? Yes, that is, my house was broken into last night. The new subject would be my house, the action receiver. Okay, we move it up to the subject. Okay, and then the verb, the active verb of broke into, we change it into a passive verb, which is was broken into. Okay. Okay, so I hope now you understand how to form passive verbs and how to change an active voice sentence into a passive voice sentence. Now let's do some practice. All right. Now here we have 5 sentences in active voice. Maybe you can take out a piece of paper and try to change them into passive voice sentences. All right. Do you remember how to do that? Is it very difficult? Okay, now don't worry. Let me give some hints. Okay, now the first rule of doing this type of exercise would be always locate where the verb is. Okay, so after looking at the verb, we know what tense it is using, and also where the action doer is and where the action receiver is. Okay, so now you can try to figure out how to change them into passive voice sentence. Okay, you can pause the video here and then change the sentences into passive voice on a piece of paper. And then when you are done, you can continue with the video, in which I will show you the correct answers. Let's see how many of them you can get it right, okay? So this is the answers to the questions. All right. Now, I just want to explain a little bit. All right. Usually in this type of exercise, when you change an active voice sentence into a passive voice sentence, you don't really need to include the action doer in the sentence anymore, except that if a name is being mentioned, just like in number 2. All right. The reason is because the name actually tells you something. It gives you some information. Okay. So unlike number 3, which you see police is being omitted in the answer, because we all know that the criminals will be arrested by the police. Okay, so we don't really need to mention. But Mr. Chen in number 2 is actually quite an important piece of information. So we will keep them if you see a name there. Okay, so this is one thing that I want to remind you. All right, if you understand this, okay, so let's hope that you also know how to do the exercise in your grammar book. Okay, in your grammar book, you wouldn't be encountering as many type of tenses as we have discussed in this video. Okay, but I always think that it is better to know more. All right, so hopefully you know how to do the grammar book, and then in the next video you'll be learning how to form passive voice questions. Okay, so bye for now.